Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to start off my stuff to see where do I share? Oh, there I can share. Still have the issue to get my stuff going. Screen one.
Sorry, we should have tested
And
this before.
yeah, hey, we got it working the last time, right? So
Yes, we did. We did.
you should be able to see something, right?
Myself. Nah.
Yourself. That's not good. Then I'm going
Yep.
to
Okay.
start
Now,
sharing again. Share. Yeah, that's strange. You see, it's always fun when, if I wish we would have more time, right? It would almost be like that we had the stuff going. Let me see that one. Start again. Share screen. Let's do it like this. This is better?
Yep, there we go.
yes.
Can see it.
Great.
I'm going to proceed.
Yes. Fantastic.
Okay, perfectly fine. People knowing me, well, Remco Broekmans, of course. I'm going to do something about multiple timelines, multi-activity. If there's anything, I know for sure that Howard is keeping an eye on the chat when any questions appear. Don't be shy. You can unmute yourself and ask a question. I like to have it a little bit interactive, but that's me. Reason I came up with this presentation is that I think the last one was one of Peter Bellis when he was talking about Dataful Builder, and he came up with something about, say, hey, we do multi-active satellites right now, and he came up with an example and said, yeah, but this is not an example where you should use multiple or multi-active satellites in Datavault. It was about timelines, getting late, deriving data coming in, etc. And I was just thinking, so I think I made a remark by then, this is not correct. And I think, I'm not sure if I just challenged myself or probably you challenged me, Howard, by the time say, this might be a good thing for a presentation. And I was
Yes.
just thinking,
Yes.
you know what? Time is relative, right? Einstein said it. You have to just say, hey, what are we going to do when it's passing? Or even a better quote from Einstein, time is an illusion. What is time? You can't grab it, you can't do anything with it, but you have to do something with it. And we all know, of course, that time is, yes, it's an illusion, but it's very important. Whatever we do, right? Data warehousing, what I'm doing, data modeling, data warehousing, time is essential. And the reason, very simple reason why, is that we all talk about time. We want to know something at a certain moment in time about some time. So it is really about time. And reason why everything we do, right, is happening at a given moment in time. Everything is created at a time or is being reported at a time. So it's all about time. And I was telling up front about to Paul as well. This movie about time. Not sure if you one of you saw it. I really like the movie. It's kind of a rom-com. That's okay. But the time traveling aspect is something I really like. Short story. The guy can travel back to time when he's standing in the closet, and just he can go back to any time he likes at a certain point. The thing is, he can relive part of his life again and again and again, which kind of make fun. It is something sometimes we want to do in data warehousing as well, right? We want to go back in time and re-see what we did at a certain time, what we know at a certain moment in time. So that time is very important. At the same token, when you find out, wait a minute, data and time, data warehousing, there's a guy next Wednesday. He's going to make a fine discussion. He made the definition, right? What's the data warehouse? Well, it's subject oriented, integrated, time variant, temporal aspect, and non-volatile collection of summary and detailed data used to support strategic decision-making process for the enterprise. This is still completely true for anybody, at least for I know, in our data warehouse environment, regardless how you store data or whatever, you see a lot of discussions on LinkedIn also about saying, hey, this is data warehouse, and they forget about integration. It's all about one source, and we do all the other stuff. It's not a data warehouse, or we are deleting data from our collection of data, not because of regulation, GDPR, or that kind of stuff, but just because, yeah, otherwise we have too much data. And everyone says that's not a data warehouse. A data warehouse is subject oriented, it's integrated, it's non-volatile. We don't throw away data unless we need to for regulation perspective. And everything we store has a time aspect on it. So what we do in a data warehouse, we want to capture it also when we store data. We want to know since when do we know about this information. We capture this information at that certain point in time. But that's only, and I think that is something which is, in my opinion, pretty important. It's technically when did we store the data? At what moment in time? At the same time, of course, we need to know, hey, if I'm going to store the data, and we're not storing data just to store data, we want to go to support that strategic decision making. So we store data in order for people to just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to create a report or a dashboard out of it because I want to go to my strategic decision making. And when I'm doing it, I'm going to look at the data from a certain time aspect. And that could be completely different than when you store the data at one moment in time. It has a different kind of timeline. And that is important. It also means that I like to store all the possible date and times with the data. So I'm not only going to store the technical timeline and a business timeline. No, if there are more different times related to the data, you'll see later on some examples for that one, I want to store that information. Why? Well, it might be the one timeline which is important to support that decision-making process. So that's what we want to do. And then I was just thinking, okay, this is what we need to do, this is how we go. What about the different timelines? Because everybody's talking about multiple timelines. And I try to kind of capture, okay, what do I see as timelines? And I'm the first one I'm going to say this is not 100% complete or there. But I think from a reporting perspective, and my good friend Michael Muller pointed it out and made a very nice definition out of it. He says, yeah, what we want to do is we want to report as is, which is more a reference to the current value. We want to report the data as we currently see the data. We don't care that this customer had a phone number a year ago. We just want to know the current phone number of this customer. We don't want to know what price a certain product was last year or a month ago or even a week ago. What is the current price? Even if the sale was being done a year ago, we are just looking at as of now. What is the current information we have as is? Which, by the way, to be honest, I think, well, 80+% of the time when an end user wants to see it, they want to just say, give me the information as of now. That's my experience. And yes, there are differences. Analysts are looking from a different perspective, but basically, this is what it is. Then we have something, say, as was. What is the information, the value that something has when the data was recorded? When did we report it? When did we record that information in the business perspective? What was the value then? Half a year ago, we recorded that this person was the manager of a store. He's no longer the manager, or she's no longer the manager of the store, but half a year ago, that person was the manager of the store. That's what we want to see. That was the as was. And some people do that. It's more like walking a little bit. Give me the information. Hey, our store was doing a great performance at that moment in time. Tell me who the manager was when we had a great performance. That was more like the as was information. And then we have the as of. As of is the most interesting part. It's also the hardest part, by the way. It is more like, hey, let's go back in time. If we had our regions we divided our whole enterprise into different regions, and we just changed it. But let's see if we are going back in time with the old region, how we are going to do it now in the same information. It's more like when you want to do future planning or budgeting, that kind of stuff. You want to just play with, instead of using the current value or the value when the data was recorded, just take another date in time. What was the value we had at that moment in time, and let's work from there and see how it works out. So these are basically from a reporting perspective, because it is really reporting as is, as was, as of. Then we have, I think, some functional dates. And a functional date is, for instance, a start date of a contract, of a mortgage, of the new pricing. We know that 3 months from now we are going to release a new product with a new price, or we are going to upscale a price or downscale a price at a certain moment in time. But we know already when it's going to happen. It's not now, but we know now that we are going to do it 2 weeks from now. Or especially for when you have a contract or a mortgage, right? I can ask for a mortgage, which is going to have a start date being in effect in February next year. I can change it the whole time, all different stuff, but it's still starting in February next year, because that's what I said. That's when I want to have my my mortgage to be starting. So that is more like kind of as of, because you're kind of referencing to a certain point in time. Could be in the future, could be in the past, but it's more like a start date. And then you have the business date, which is more a reference. Okay, when was that information, the data, recorded in the business process? It's very important, right? Not so much when the data warehouse sorted, but more like, when did the business process say, oh, by the way, we have we added a customer, and this was the date when we added a customer. Or there's we got a request, and this is the date when we recorded that request. It was a request for a mortgage, which is going to take place half a year from now. So that is kind of what is more from a functional perspective we're going to do. And of course, we data warehouse people, and I refer to myself now as one of the data warehouse people, said, yeah, we need to technically make sure that we get all the data. And one thing is just technically data warehouse dates, as I call them, is just we take a reference to the value that was in effect when the data was recorded in the data warehouse environment. So as the moment I'm loading the data in my data warehouse, this is the value it was. And that's why people knowing a little bit about Data Vault, one of the things in Data Vault, on a record level, we store the technical load date timestamp. This is really the technical load date timestamp. At this moment in time, this is the value we store. And then we have what I call source dates. And source dates are all the functional business dates. The real business dates, the start dates, all the other dates. All the dates my source can deliver me. That could be when was it recorded in my source system, when was it changed in my source system, what are start dates, all that kind of information. So all that kind of stuff, we need to technically store that information. From a people doing multi-active satellite, this is where it's going, in my opinion, in an other direction, then I would definitely recommend and to keep it simple. So different timelines, right? From a technical perspective, you want to know when did we create it, when did it change, when is it ended, when it become valid, when it's no longer valid. From a business perspective, you also want to know when was it created, when was it changed, when was it ended, when it becomes valid, when it's no longer valid. So, but the only thing is, you have almost like a different angle to the same information. We need to store all the information. Then you just go and say, okay, all these different timelines in my data vault. How do I store the information? I once went in a very, very interesting, well, actually 3 times, I guess I had the session. And Sean is, I think, was present on that one as well. And it was all about multiple timelines in a data vault and how to store it. And one of their solutions, by the way, was multi-active satellites. And every time I was out of that information, I was looking for my Advil because I got a headache. And I was not the only one. I know that Hans got a headache as well. Many people got a headache because there is so much going on. You're storing different timelines. And then I'm just saying, okay, apparently multiple timelines is an opportunity. And I think, yeah, okay, I can go from there. But I was just looking into it and said, do we really, can data really be multi-active? Can I have and expect, I'm Remco Broekmans, I'm living in Vlaardingen. Can I also at the same time live in Cape Town? Or can I live at the same time in whatever? Well, no, I can only live at one place at the same time. Yes, I can have houses over here in the Netherlands, in Cape Town. Sorry, not going to do it, or in Wellington or whatever. I can own a house over there. But can I really live there at the same time? Well, I try to be multi-active and do a lot of stuff, but I'm just saying, no, I can only be living at one spot at the same time. So if I'm living in Cape Town, it's just a different time angle. It's a different time aspect. So can they be really active? I don't think so. But, you know, let's go from there. Some people will
Sorry,
mind.
Remco.
Yeah.
Sorry, Remco. Can we just confirm what you, in terms of multi-active, what we're saying is, can we have multiple records at the satellite level that both have the active indicator or the current indicator is yes?
Yep.
Right. Similar to what we would do with a slowly changing dimension. Each time a new one comes in, we would mark the new one as active and the old one becomes inactive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, okay. All right.
And it's good that you're saying, because I'm going to kind of iterate on that one later on. So it would almost like that we planned this one, but no, I'm going to in that direction as well. But we are just saying, just like in Dimension Right, at any moment in time, there's only one record saying I'm active. Yet people are saying, no, but there can be multi-active. You can have at the same time, there can be multiple things going in because, for example, what Peter Bellis was showing, and he was not the only one saying, hey, we got information in at a different time, but it's still it was also active. So I need to have my multi-active satellite. And what you're doing, and this is kind of a slide from more or less from our training, say, this is basically the pattern, right? I have a customer, and a customer has an address, information somewhere where you can reach, and the circuit ID, the SID, is just a reference to the actual customer, and the date timestamp is technically when did the warehouse get this information. And apparently the address is somewhere in Vlaardingen in the Netherlands, and Remco is living there since 1997, end date unknown, whatever. And we got it in our system at a certain moment in time. So this was 1997, etc., etc., etc. This is just how it works. But what's to say to, yeah, but at the same token, Remco is not only living in Vlaardingen, but also in Cape Town, also in Wellington. Then people said, yeah, you know what? Instead of just saying at this moment in time, this is all the information we got multiple bottom ones. So let's make the business of active date, so from the source system, also part of the key of this satellite, making it a 3-part key instead of a 2-part key. What you're basically seeing is We know at this moment in time, oh, for this business date, Leiningen, for the other one, it's Cape Town, etc., etc. What you're doing is a grade shift, because what we're saying in Data Vault, we're saying, hey, at a moment in time, one-to-one, this is my context. What you're saying now, at this moment in time, there could be many. Data Vault also says we are coming from a third normal form entity like that's how we see our data. We have an entity, this is how it is. And what we can do, we can say, hey, this third normal form entity, we can break it down into the ensemble, right? We have a hub, satellite, and links. And if we do it correctly, we can fold it back in together. How do we store data in third normal form? Well, everything what belongs describing a identifier is on the same record level. Right? Everything we have to describe a identifier is on one record. Then what we have here, for this moment in time, this is my one record describing my identifier. What we do here, at this moment in time, oh, I have 2 or 3 or 4 different ones describing my identifier. It's no longer possible to get it back into my third normal form kind of entity.
Yeah.
What you're in fact doing is you're going to add some kind of extra key or foreign key into my satellite. You are mixing patterns. You are doing it with a grain shift. And of course, I was working in this, and this is also the easy part. I think, yeah, okay, people can just discuss with me, yeah, Remco, you're wrong. This effective still works. This is just how it is, and this is easy to go for. And I was just thinking, you know what? Moving a little bit further. But wait a minute. What if I don't want to see my data per when was it active in my business, but as of when is the start date? Because let's be honest, you never know which timeline business people want to see. So what if we want to have start date on that one? Are we going to replace business effective date timestamp as part of the key with start date? To be honest, I don't think I ever saw that one. I saw business effective date timestamp as part of it, a start date or another kind of date information. Never. At the same token, people going in that direction, saying this is what you need to do. Let's go forward. They go, okay. If you think it might also be a timeline for start date, and business effective date is important, well, why don't we add start date as part of the key of that satellite? Because it's just logically the same information, right? Hey, we can have, from a business perspective, we can have multiple. Let's add business effective date timestamp as part of the key. What if we also can have multiple start dates for a given business effective date at a date timestamp? Well, let's just add another part to that satellite to be a multi-active satellite. And I never saw this one. Well, you're just following the same pattern what they did before. So this came to my question. So doesn't seem too logical to add another timeline to the key. So why did we do it in the first place? Yeah, that's logic. Yeah, why don't we do an extra one? Yeah, that's not logical. And the thing is that I still remember, and I'm going a long time. I had a training by Dan and Hans together on Data Vault certification, and it was about 2005, 6-ish, something. And they were telling me, you know, a link to link to link to link to link relationship, you can do it, but just stop at link to link. And of course, by then I was just, and I think everybody said, yeah, it makes sense. Don't add another relationship to another relationship to another relationship. Don't stack them. Technically, you can do it. You can still do it, by the way, but it doesn't make any sense. And nowadays, and I think for the last 10 years now, we also know that, yeah, a link to link is not something you want. You don't want to relate to a relationship. So we just have relationships, period. We don't go further. And I don't think there's too much discussion in Data Vault world, by the way, on link to links. nowadays. People kind of know that, link to link is not a good idea. Yet still, people are going to go in the same pattern, say, range shift, we can just add another part to the key. Oh, we can just add another part to the key. Yes, you can technically, but what are you saying? So, for me, you know what? Don't do it. Don't go there. Don't go to the direction. And it makes sense, by the way, because it might be a little bit far off on that dimensional kind of or customer part. But what if we're looking for orders? We have orders, and I kind of nicked this a little bit from the Willy Bolt case, where we have a business effective date and a requested delivery date on an order. Why aren't we just going to say, oh, this is what the business is saying, and this is my requested delivery date? And I could have multiple for the same business effective date or not. We don't do that. Why? Well, really doesn't make sense. And now we're going to the fun part. And Howard, I think that's what you're referring to. Let's go dimensional. Let's just see how is the pattern working in dimensional world. And then you see, okay, in the dimension, we keep track of history, right? We do a full type 2 dimension where we say, going back one, that's too fast. For a certain business key at a certain, probably I assume just business effective date timestamp, right? When there is a change on that one, we insert a new record as a circuit ID, and that's how we keep track of time and date time, right? This is normal type 2 dimension. As an alternative, and I think even that is making life easier as is, as was, as of, and as I recall, but sometimes I'm a little bit old and blurry, that Kimball actually says, for a certain circuit ID, because here you get every new primary or new key information, customer name, bit effective date, you get a new circuit ID, which also means that you're losing information, facts over time for that same customer. You have to go to the DIM customer, a lot of work. He says, what if we keep our customer ID, circuit ID, the same, and we're going to add that version number. So I got customer SID 501, version number 1. Whenever there's some change going, you have customer SID 501, version number 2, because there is a change. I don't see this often used. I think it's very elegant, by the way. And one of the reasons why, because then you get a double entry because you have to have both in your fact table. At the same token, if you go further on this stuff where you say, hey, the business effective date, that might be something which can make a change. You could do it for a certain DIM customer SID, for a certain business effective date. This is all the value. Okay, you also need a double entry in the fact table. If you're going to add another timeline, how is that going to work? This is also not something we do in dimensional world. We do it in business data vault. Currently, we don't do it in dimensional. Why? Yeah, doesn't feel very right to do so for reporting use, because you don't know which date, time, dimension you want to do. Yeah, for a fact table, it's easy, right? Let's go, let's go to the fact table. What about it? Well, every unique record in a fact table, right, is consisting of all the foreign keys referring to dimensions, and order date in this case, right? Order date is just a reference to the date dimension. Perfect. But remember, on the Willy Bolt case was also something we also want to know. It was very important for the business to have the required order date. Okay, are you going to add it as part of the key, or just say, yeah, it's going to be a role-playing date time dimension, or replace whatever, or just see it as context, like the measures? The thing is, all what you're doing, right, it should be a discussion with the business. How do you want to see the data? That really is important. And I was just kind of playing again. I like to play, especially when I want it. And I really liked thinking a little bit further on some topics than just the usual one. And this one really got my brain going and not hurting. I didn't need the Advil. I think, you know what? Cool. We get all the dates in and we go reporting and we go to the whole stuff. Got that one to do. Are we really going to create a data mart? And I put it on the higher level. I only have for order, I only have store, employee, and customer, but I have an order date, a request date, a business effective date, and a technical date. Are we going to have 4 role-playing date dimensions, right, to affect order? We might, from a technical perspective, this is perfectly fine, it works. But if I'm going to tell you to the business, okay, this is what you got. You got 4 different timelines plus a store, DIM, employee, and customer for your order. You now can say, okay, what you can see is what is ordered at a given order date for a given requested delivery date and being valid at a certain time being true in the business at the moment the warehouse recorded it. Yeah, if I'm going to be very, very honest, this one is hardly ever going to be visible in any part of your delivery tool for reports. You don't need a one. It's just technical. When did the warehouse record it? Very, very important, by the way, if you want to do auditing, right? And if you want to trace back, when did you get the information? But from a reporting perspective, nah, not so much. Same, business effective date, yeah, might be, but I think when you're doing orders, I think this one you want in this one is also not so important. And I would say 8 out of 10, I would have, in this case, just the order date and the requested order date or requested delivery date as a date dimension with my fact order. Why? Because people can understand what they're looking at. If you add too much timelines, people don't know what you're going to do anymore. Yeah, I hope this part is clear. I'm going to kind of summarize back to basic stuff, but I hope that people kind of getting headaches now.
Sorry, Remco, there's actually a question from Tortzen. And he's asking, do you mind if I ask you the question now?
No, just no, especially when it's come from Torsten. That's always good.
Okay, so he's saying this means given a bitemporal batch delivering a third normal source system, before loading the data vault, you would need to pre-process the delivered data set to fit the satellite pattern. Is that correct? Or would you load a hub containing the source line?
You know what? I'm not going to answer it right now. I'm going to that one. I think I answered that question with some of the slides I put later on. So if you don't mind, then I'm going to just park it. A good question, by the way. It is a very good question.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Torsten. I'll come to that one.
No, all good. All good.
Okay. More questions at the moment?
No, that's it.
Okay, cool. Then I'm going back to basics. You know,
sorry, Remco.
Yeah.
There was just one question that's come in from Mohammed. Mohammed?
Yes, hi, Mohammed Haroon.
Hi, Mohammed. Yeah.
Yes, I have one question. Actually, I'm ERP manager here. We have, I think, similar example here. Like one employee, he's having a salary, let's say 5,000 USDs in 2023, but he was having 4,000 USD in 2022. So we are maintaining 2 dates, effective start date, effective end date. So when we set the effective dates in the system, so system will tell the employee salary related to the last year. So when we change the effective dates in the same screen to the current, it will show us the current salary. So it means this is another example of this model, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what you kind of have, and I'm just going to I'm going back a little bit to have some space to draw, right? I have employees, you have a start or going into effective date and an end date of, and let's say the value, right? About what? So 1/1 to 12/10 it was 5,000 whatever, and 13, 10, 4,000, right? Something like this, right? That's what you're getting. Yeah.
Yes.
What I'm saying, right? This is really what's going forward, right? And these start date and end dates are dates kind of of the contract. There's also could be something, I think your ERP system will give this one, a business date or a GUI date or a change date, or that maybe even both, a business date and a change date, because 1 to 12, that could be set at 21st of December the year before. And it could be even changed because he wasn't very happy at the 24th of December. So there are actual dates. At the same token, when we are loading it into our warehouse, we are going to say, oh, by the way, at this moment in time, we know about it. And it could be just a day after, it could be a month after, it could be any date. But all those dates we need to have.
Okay, so it means in our fact table, we will have this information. Based on these effective dates.
You will, your fact table, you will have the option to say what kind of dates do I want to see. Do I want to see everything based upon my start date and end date? What are the values? Or are you just saying, you know what, just give me when it was from a business perspective, when it was being loaded into my source system, my ERP system, or when it's been changed. You have the option to your data marts, to your fact table, to say what do I want to see, and maybe you want to see both. So
yes.
maybe you want to see a fact table where it says as of timeline start dates, or another one maybe fact as of when did we put it into our system from a business perspective, because this one is more from an employee perspective, the start date, right? When I'm getting my money, and that business date or change date is more like when did we approve this kind of money? When did we approve that he's getting more or less information?
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
makes
thank
sense.
you so much. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, welcome. I'm going to. Okay, let's go back to the basic, right? At any given moment, a product has a price. At any given moment, an order has an order date, an employee has a first name, an employee has a contract. The contract has a start date and an end date, all that kind of stuff. A customer has a phone number. It also means that any change about customer's phone number means that we need to add a new entry in the satellite. When the employee is changing first name, it needs to add a new entry in. When an order gets a new order date, we made a mistake. We thought the order date was August 21st, but it should be something different. The satellite should capture that one saying, oh, we now have a new order date. Kind of strange, but it can happen, right? And the product has a certain price. A new entry in the satellite. Don't try to do something different. Don't try to do it as multi-active, multiple timelines. And yes, still, I'm going to go to the question from Torsten later on. No worries. Because people are still doing multi-active. Why? Well, one of the reasons why people are doing it, late arriving information. Apparently, that's an issue, right? That's the issue, actually, Pathological in his presentation. By the way, I don't disagree with what he was saying. I only disagree with the solution he had. But late arriving information was for him one reason why to do multi-active satellites. Or, and that's more something, and I'm going to work on this one, Torsten, I think this is your right. Within a certain batch you're getting in, you have changes. There are multiple values for the same identifier in the same batch. It happens when you are having historical loads, yes or no. The very simple solution. Don't care on changing with the batch and only load the latest data you're getting. That's a very simple one. I'm going to show you a little bit more. Or you have a lousy source system which has no clue. I have a source system and it's going to provide me with 20 plus phone numbers all at the same time. And my source can say, here, 26 phone numbers, have fun. Yeah, but what do you mean with the 26 phone numbers? Because they're all related to the same customer. Yeah, I don't know which one is which. First of all, those are exceptions and should be treated as such. So it's very simple. If it's an exception, it's not standard. One thing you can do, if you really cannot make the distinction between that information, just say, you know what, all those 20 plus phone numbers, I'm going to store them as a JSON string or something similar. Or look further and try to see if you get a distinction. Maybe can you get some historical information? What's the last added phone number or tag or whatever? Important that what I'm saying is an exception. The issue will only be with the first load. Only the first time the source gives you 20 plus phone numbers, let's say 26 phone numbers, you have the issue. The next time the source system comes in, and you know, now you've got 27 phone numbers for that customer. Okay, I had 26, now I have 27, so one is new. I can use that one. It's a new one. I can now store the new one as being, this is the last one I've got. Next time he gives you 28. Well, that's apparently the latest version I got is overwritten in the source system or is added a new one. I can just add in latest phone number, a new entry in my satellite. Not a problem. So it's an exception and it's only the first load. And yes, I know there's an exception on an exception where people say, yeah, but next time you get also 28 phone numbers for the same customer again, and they're completely different. Yeah, and to be honest, don't bother and just say, we load them as they are coming in as a string, a JSON string or something like it, or just a reference. We don't know which phone number we need to report on. If they're asking for a report on the phone number for a customer, have fun. At this moment in time, we have 26. At this moment in time, we have 28. Be a business. Enjoy. Because the source system didn't provide us any information. And we don't know. So be really simple on exception based. And if we can detect, of course, you want to help detect. If not, yeah, bad luck. Let's go into the late arriving information or into our batch changes. Late arriving information. Let's assume we have a 5 records coming in at different times. And the timing is there's some kind of an order. The timing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we see already 2 January 2nd, 6, 9, 17, and 14. This is the order that's coming in. And of course, this is the odd one out, right? This is the odd one out saying, oh, and give you information, which I, to be honest, maybe the last one's the odd one out. This one should be in between. So, but let's assume we don't know it. Row 5 is late arriving information. So make 17 the odd one out or the current value record. Yeah. First load. Very simple. I have my circuit ID, loaded timestamp, and this combination in my satellite is the primary key of the table. As of this combination, my context, my complete context say, I have my business effective date timestamp and all the rest of the context, that's my first load. The second one coming in says, okay, well, again, this is the primary key, and this is all just context where business effective date is something extra on the context, but it's just seen as context saying, oh, I got January 6th and context B, so there's a difference. I can load it, insert new record. Nice. Now I'm going to skip the third load. I'm going to load number 4. Say, hey, again, primary key, January 17, ES context. Yeah, sure, same as always, just load it. And now comes the late arriving information. On January 20, we focused, oh dear, we forgot to load some data we had before. But since this is a primary key of my satellite and this is just seen as context, I can just load it. I can just load, say, oh, by the way, technical latest information, business-wise, January 14, and D as context. Perfectly fine. I can load it. I don't have to do anything with multi-active satellite. The only thing what I need to do is when I'm going to report on it, I'm going towards my dimensional model and say, okay, what timeline do you want to see as a base? Just forget about all the other timelines. What time do you want to see as a base? The technical one, because if you want to see the technical one, oh, by the way, we will see that day is the current value. I would say 95 out of 100 people want to see everything out of a business perspective. So we're going to use this timeline. And this timeline will tell you E is the latest information. E is the latest, the current record. Why? Well, context D, so row 5, business effective date, January 14. That's older than January 17. So we should report what's the current value from business perspective. That's the current value. You know, I'm going further, and let's assume something different. I'm going to say, and yes, I know this one was 14/4, it's now 17, just to make sure, at the same business effective date timestamp. January 17, January 17. I got it into 2 different loads. Context is different. I can now easily load this one because I can just say, as per January 20, business effective date, January 17, D is the current is the value. Oh, by the way, January 18, January 17, E is the value. The same business effective date, but different context. Cool. I can just load it. Well, I'll still have this only as my primary key and this just as seen as context. What happened if we made an error on January 25, saying, yeah, the context D is really the one, kind of confirming this one, but we made an error? Well, very simple. January 30, we are loading the information. Oh dear, we made a mistake. We are going to confirm 29th of January, E is actually the context we are going to have. And again, I don't need to do anything on multi-active to make it work. I don't need that extra part of the key. This is just still my key. This is just seen as a whole. I know it says business effective date, timestamp, and context, but this is just as a whole seen context. I could also, instead of this one saying, oh, name, whatever. I don't care. We can just see, is there a change? Over here, if so, insert new record. If there's no change, do nothing. This record and this record changed. I need to insert a new record. Why? Because of this one. This one, insert new record. Why? Well, because of this one. No problem whatsoever. So instead of just saying, hey, my business is I get a business information, and it could be an extraction date even. If that is what we need to add as just as context, we can just add the one as context, making our life as easy as we can. So I would just advise, store all the possible dates as context, apart, of course, from the technical load date timestamp, because that's part of the key in my satellites. So instead of going multi-active satellites, keep it simple. And you can still choose, I think that's the most important one, when you're going to report on it, you can still just say, hey, let's go and see which timeline is important to have for that business analysis. Also be prepared when creating multiple data marts to support multiple timelines. And the decision, of course, it's not my decision, it's not the warehouse decision, it's the decision of the business. Discuss with the business, what do you want to see? Don't make the discussion when loading, because it doesn't make sense to go into multi-active satellites again, because then you're going to add a timeline to it, but you don't know if that's the timeline the business wants to see, unless you're going to discuss it. And they're only going to say, I don't care how you store it, I just want to see it. Yeah? Just checking on time. It's so much fun having discussions. The only bad thing I don't see you guys. That's the too bad thing.
Okay.
One thing, and just I'm almost to the end, by the way. Intra-batch changes, right? When you have a batch, it can happen when you are having loading data with too large frequency. We only do weekly loads or daily loads or monthly loads. One thing, load more frequently. That's a very simple one. I even had a discussion with one guy, I think he's even in the audience, that, you know, if I load every half hour, means that my server I'm going to use for my warehouse can be a much simpler server, because every half hour means less information I need to load. So instead of having a very, very heavy server being idle for 90% of the time, it's just a very simple server being used to the full at all time. So that might be one thing. Another thing, people saying, my source will always deliver full loads, even with including the historical changes. Well, create a code, change data capture before loading. This is my my table I got yesterday. My stage table. This stage table of today. I'm going to only do a table compare, and I can see new, changed, deleted, and I'm going to use that one to load my data vault. All the rest I'm not interested in, because there's no change. So even if my source will deliver full loads and don't do change data capture, create your own change data capture. Or we have historical loads. You get a bulk load to store all historical data. Cut up your batch in smaller sizes, divided by dates. Or temporarily set the technical load date timestamp to actual writing time. Normally you say it's the batch time. You know what? Just put it on the picoseconds load date timestamp. And maybe add an audit ID to, or a batch ID to know all this information is coming from a certain batch at a certain moment in time. Perfect. It's one time only, historical loads. If your data is too rapid changing constantly, especially when your streams are being bumped into it, might be a good thing to go to real-time loading. Go streaming. Good luck with that, but that's might be another thing. A very nice thing, everything we're discussing here is only an issue for your context, only for your satellite loads. You don't have to deal with it on your hub load and your link loads, because it's only happy to be for context. Because let's be honest, in data vault world, an identifier, a business key is. The relationship between identifiers is. They're very zen. The only thing where it changes is context. Yeah. One thing I think I kind of discussed this one already, and this is really the last normal slide, and then I got my advertorial slide to say it, is with the lousy source system, right? Again, remember, these are exceptions. I know people, there's a book written where it's saying, hey, you can do multi-active over there and make it whatever. It's an exception. Treat it as such, and to be honest, I would just say store it as a JSON. Or try to find the distinction. Thing is, and that's the last part, right? If your source cannot give you a distinction and just give it, oh, here it is, it's multi-active. We have it all active at the same time. What are you going to deliver to the business? Well, probably everything you have. And they're just going to say, yeah, you gave me 20 plus phone numbers. Which one do I need to use to call my supplier or my customer or whatever? I don't know. You do a pick. You know what? I start with phone number, the first phone number you can see, and then go all the other ones. Oh, by the way, when you know which one is the right one, tell me, because then I can store that one and give it to you next time. Lousy source systems, we have to deal with them, right?
Yep.
And apart from some nice links to our training, and we have a website, dvstandards.com, where you can see everything about best practice and guidelines on data vault standards. We also have elmstandards.com. That's some discussion that one before, right? How the Elm process, the whole process from doing workshop with the business to finally go to a logical model. Also another website. As Howard says, connect with me on LinkedIn. please tell me, hey, saw your presentation with Dama South Africa, shall we link? Then I'm happy. Don't just send a link of an invite. I just want to know where I know you from. That's a little bit more. But happy to connect. And if you want to send information or ask a question, it says info@genesysacademy.com. I think on the first slide, just Remco@genesysacademy.com. And I'm happy to answer a lot of questions.
Remco, thank you very much. So there is a question from Cornet, and there's a comment from Christian that I'd like to talk to.
Yep.
Thanks a lot. So Cornet's question is on those inter-batch loads. He just wanted confirmation. Cornet, would you like to ask, or should I read your question, or would you like to ask?
That's fine, I can ask. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, you went over that slide quite quickly. So what you are suggesting basically for intra-batch changes, so let's say, for example, if it is a CDC source and there's multiple changes constantly coming in by the time you load it into the data vault, is that you would rather manipulate the load date with a nanosecond or something just to make the load unique. I mean, the primary key unique, and then just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, if my source system provides me change data capture, right? That's that one thing. If my source system already provides me change data capture, then hopefully I don't get intra-batch change. If I still get intra-batch changes, what I want to do is to can I load them in smaller steps? If I'm interested in store them all. So I don't want to go to first. My first thing is I'm not going to change my load date timestamp to the microsecond or nanosecond or picosecond, whatever. But I just want to say, can I load that same batch I got into smaller steps, just to have every change captured? If that's not possible because it's too big or whatever, yes, I would change my load date timestamp into instead of having a batch load date timestamp into the microsecond one. But then I would definitely add a batch ID to my satellite to just keep all the information together. Hey, the information over this whole time span you're getting has all the same batch ID. So this was all coming in through the same batch. Make sense?
Yeah, but bottom line is you will never deviate from changing the primary key from your hash key and your load date.
Nope, never, ever.
Okay,
because
thanks.
it's going to give you a lot of issues. I hope that makes much sense. It gives you a lot of issues when loading it, because it's going to change, right? You have satellite where you have multi-active, so a 3-part key, so that you're kind of breaking the pattern. You're going to add an extra step to the pattern. Sure, it's a small one, but yeah, this can be done. It's also hard to get the data out, and you have a grain shift. You don't want a grain shift, right? You don't want to have the grain shift because the satellite says, at this moment in time, this is my context. That's basically what my satellite's telling me. And when you add that multi-active, so add an extra part to the key of the satellite to make the 3-part key, then you're no longer one-to-one. You're at that moment in time. You're grain shifting. And you can't do it in third normal form either, so why should we? Yeah.
Thanks, Remco. Cornet, thank you. Now, there's one comment that I'd just like, maybe if Christian could explain it. He talks about going through all the possible pathological cases. So I was just, maybe Christian could explain his statement. I'm not sure exactly what he refers to when it's talking about pathological cases.
Unmute yourself, Christian.
So sorry, yeah. Remco has already covered some pathological cases about late arriving data or corrections and stuff like that. And I think to completely subscribe to his view that having the single technical timeline works in all cases, I would have to go through these pathological cases in some more detail. But at first glance, it looks good.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to convert you as a bitemporality fan to a normal fan. But again, Christian, and I think, and it's a challenge for the whole group, right? If anyone comes up with, hey, this is a case where I think multi-activity or bitemporal should be solved by adding an extra part to the key, ping me. I'm happy to go on a discussion over there. The very simple reason, I think you can make the solution a lot simpler.
Well, I have one case for you, Remco. How about the Willibald?
Willibald, I have, well, you know, I already did the logical model over there, right?
I know. That's why I'm referring to it.
Yeah, I didn't went into the details, but I'm very, very sure that on the data set, and I'm happy to dive into it if I find the time on the Willibald case, that there's completely no need for multi-activity. I know that the guys setting it up, the Willibald case, well, we all know them. I know that you know them pretty well as well. I do as well, right? And they did a very, very great job. But also we're going into a direction where said, oh, multi-active, that should be done because they are just like
it's part of the challenge. I know that's not a good idea.
It's not needed, and it gives you again.
But that's a problem if you have the tool vendors and they don't support the pre-processing in case of this batch-oriented source systems. Then one of the solutions is to either have a multi-active or add parts to the hub in the business key. I mean, you can do that just in order to fulfill the needs of your automation, but for like your target data vault or reading out the data vault, it's going to cause some troubles.
It's the same like I think we had a discussion, right? One of the you were not there, but I'm happy to discuss that with you as well, Torsten. This a presentation or provide you the link presentation about abstraction and generalization data vault. People tend to do that one, role playing and typing, and add those to my data vault because it's making my life easy. I don't, and people still doing it, and the reason why, well. They're things to be flexible, which is not. And what you're saying, right? Tool vendors give you the option to do multi-active. Actually, all of them, they do a lot of stuff. But do you really need to model something which a tool, because a tool can do it? I worked with Informatica in the past, a long time ago. To be honest, I knew a lot of Informatica. I could all the ATL jobs, but I only needed 10 to 20% at the most of the capabilities of Informatica for all the jobs I did. All the ETL jobs I created were pretty straightforward. Yes, it can do much more, but do you really want to use that much more in detail information? Maybe there's a rare exceptional case. And again, I'm happy to hear about rare exceptional cases. In a Willibald case, I'm pretty sure you don't need it. But it's fun discussion, right?
Agreed.
Remco, there's just a question there. I'm suggesting that Corné can find you on LinkedIn, but if you could just drop your email, that's probably quicker.
And Corné, if you have any questions, just again ping me, no problem whatsoever.
I will.
And if you have a question and say, hey, I have this case, can we discuss? I'm even happy to go on a call if I can find the time. So no problem whatsoever. And that's, by the way, not only for Corné, but it's for everybody. So, yeah.
Remco, thank you very much. Any last questions? Anyone with a last question before we go? Okay. Remco, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Lekker, Remco. Thanks, Howard.
Thank you, Remco.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Thanks, Howard.
Yes.
Bye.